Hello and welcome to Zambia Today. I'm your host, Faith Katai. On the program, we are looking at the new provisions of the candidate registration for 2026 examinations for primary and secondary school. And to explain to us about what this is all about, in the studio, I have with me Examinations Council of Zambia Acting Public Relations Manager, Ms. Angela Mwandu. Madam, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Faith, and thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So to begin with, can you explain to us what these new provisions for the candidate registration 2026 examination is all about?
Okay, before we get to that, Faith, I'd like to mention that the Examinations Council of Zambia was established by an Act of Parliament of 1983, which was amended in 1994. Then subsequently, it was repealed and replaced by the Examinations Council of Zambia Act number 3 of 2023. So part of our mandate is to set and conduct examinations at different levels. So in terms of the requirements for registration for 2026, the new things that we have added include a portrait for the candidate. Their image will need to be taken during registration. The other thing is they'll need to provide either a birth certificate number or a birth record. Though at this point, I would love to mention that this is not mandatory. Then the third thing is that the parents or guardians need to provide their contact details. That is a phone number and an email address. In the event that they do not have an email address, at least they should provide us with a working phone number.
So does this apply also for the grade 9s or the primary education?
So when we talk of candidate registration, Faith, for 2026, we are talking about the primary school leaving examination, that is for grade 7. We are talking about the school certificate, that is grade 12. We are also talking about the General Certificate of Education, which is the GCE. So that is what we are talking about when we say candidate registration for 2026.
Okay. So are you able to take us through the whole process? Like what really do they need to take the steps? Like the whole process of this for the sake of our viewers?
Okay, so I'll be able to give you the major things involved in the process. So before registration, there is pre-registration activity that takes place from the school or the center that the candidate intends to write from. So in pre-registration, the candidates, of course, have to provide their personal details, that is the name. If it's for primary school leaving candidates, they have to provide the name as it is on the birth certificate or the birth record. They also have to give things like the date of birth, and they have to indicate at that point the school of choice where they want to go when they go to Form 1. And for this, they have to choose a school that is within the province where they'll be writing from. So these are just some of the things that are involved in pre-registration, and candidates are well guided at that point. So when this is done, then the next thing that takes place is that the school now has to enter those details in the online candidate registration system. That is the system that we use as Examinations Council of Zambia. So when the pre-registration is done, then if the school and the candidates are comfortable that the details provided are correct, then those details have to be entered in the system, the online candidate registration system. So when this is done, with what we mentioned earlier about parents and guardians being able to provide their contact number or an email address, a link will then be sent via email and to their mobile phones, where they'll be required now to go into the system to verify the details for the candidates. Once they check that the details provided in the system are correct, then they are required to confirm those details as correct. But in the event that those details are not correct, there's a provision where they are supposed to edit those details. So once they edit the details, they are supposed to make those submissions within the system. When they do that, then there will be a prompt that will be sent to the registration center, that is the school where they intend to register from. So when that is done, the school at some point will need to go into the system to accept those changes, the amendments made by the parents or the guardians. When that is done, they are supposed to now give chance again to the parents or the guardians to check that they've worked on those amendments and they've been updated in the system. When that is done, that is when those details can be confirmed in the system.
Right. So then how does these changes affect the registration process like the previous one that we used to use?
Okay. In terms of changes, I mentioned earlier about the portrait now being a requirement to be taken during registration. So with the getting of the portrait for the candidates, what we are trying to cure is the issue where candidates engage in examination malpractices through impersonation. So by taking the portrait of the candidate, we hope this is the candidate who is then going to be the one to write the examination, because the situations we've encountered in the past have been someone who will register on behalf of another person, then they fidget with the national registration cards. They'll just change the picture there, but the other details will remain the same on the national registration card. So we are hoping to prevent such cases by having the portrait. So the one who registers is the one who gets to write, because that portrait will appear on the register for the school, and this will eventually find itself on the certificate for the candidate. So the image that we capture is the image we expect to have on the register and going forward on the certificate. Then the other issue I would love to mention, other than the portrait, with the inclusion of the parents' details on the during the registration process, we are trying to reduce cases of name amendments. We usually receive a lot of requests from parents to say their children or the candidates that are under their care were registered wrongly, either wrong names, wrong date of birth. Sometimes they claim that maybe the middle name was missed. The names appear not to be the way they are on the birth record or the birth certificate. So by shifting the responsibility of verification to the parents and guardian, that is what we are trying to cure. So this is one way that people will be affected. If you verify that the details are correct, why should you turn around later and come to say these are not the correct details? So we implore the parents, the guardians, to ensure that they take this exercise very seriously and ensure that they only confirm or verify the details if they are satisfied that that is what they have on their records.
Wonderful. I would like you to, I know you've mentioned part of the requirements, but I wanted you to really emphasize on the requirements that are needed for candidates, like from primary school, secondary, and the GCE.
Okay. Starting with primary school, during pre-registration, I'm aware that some schools will issue out some forms. On those forms, they'll put out everything that they require from the candidates. So if it is the name, they will need also to verify it with a birth record or a birth certificate. We've mentioned that this is not mandatory for now for the parents to produce those, but the school will still need the correct name for the child. That is at primary school leaving, which is grade 7. They will ask for the date of birth, because as you may be aware, the Ministry of Education has guidelines on when children are supposed to be enrolled at grade 1 level. So the age really matters. So we need to make sure that parents are providing the correct information. So personal details such as the name, the date of birth, those need to be there. So there will be other things like nationality there. So parents should not find it strange when being registered, that those will be some of the information they'll need to provide. Nationality will be needed. The school of choice, I think I mentioned that one. Then in this case, I would also love to take the opportunity to mention that at grade 7 level, there's a subject called Creative Technology Studies. So the learners have been learning this under like as one subject, but it actually has 3 components. So for the purposes of registration for 2026, this subject will be split into 3. So under CTS, there will be technology studies as an optional subject. There will be home economics as an optional subject, and expressive arts. So we are informing the parents and the guardians that when choosing the subjects, the candidate has to be registered for only one of these subjects. So that is one thing that is different about this registration. So the subject which would come as creative technology studies will be split into 3, and out of the 3, the candidates just need to choose one, either home economics, technology studies, or expressive arts.
Awesome. So this candidate, 2026 candidate registration for the exams, do we have deadlines that people need to know that they need to keep, especially for GCE?
Okay, so maybe before I answer that, Faith, I just mentioned for grade 7. So for those writing the school certificate exams, they'll need to have the examination number that they used at grade 9 when registering. They'll need to have that number for them to be able to register. Then for GCE candidates, other than the portraits and the other requirements that we have mentioned, they also need to produce their national registration cards. So coming to your other question about the deadlines. So for the exams that we are talking about the primary school leaving, which is grade 7. We are talking about the school certificate exam, which is grade 12. We are talking about the GCE exam. So the deadline, in terms of when registration started, we opened the online candidate registration system on Monday, 10th November 2025, and we are closing on Friday, 16th March 2026. So these levels that we have mentioned, grade 7, grade 12, and the GCE, this is the period that they need to register if they want to write their examinations next year. So I'll repeat the dates. We are talking about 10th November 2025. So we opened last month, and we are closing on Friday, 16th March 2026. So we encourage all the candidates, the parents, the guardians, to take note of these very important dates and ensure that candidates register within this period. They should not wait until the last minute or the last day to register, because one thing they should bear in mind is that candidates are writing from all the 10 provinces. So the system that we are using is one system. So the earlier that they register, the better, and they should also adhere to the guidelines that they are being given by their schools and the examination centers where they are registering from. For administrative purposes, the schools will tell them to submit certain documents by particular dates. So as much as we have our deadline as Examinations Council of Zambia, they should also adhere to the guidance which they'll be given by their respective schools and the examination centers.
Great. We now go on a short break. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Zambia News and Information Services, your media and communication hub. Need a professional space? We offer state-of-the-art studio hire for sound and film productions. Experience comprehensive news coverage and in-depth features that bring you closer to the stories that matter. Capture your moments with our professional photography services, perfect for events, portraits, and more. Looking for eye-catching visuals? Our graphic art and design team will elevate your brand with custom solutions. Host your next event with confidence. We provide high-quality conference systems and public address systems tailored to your needs. Contact us today at zanismarketing@gmail.com or call or WhatsApp 0773 809 040. Zanis TV, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. This is Zambia Today. And today on the program, we are focusing on the new provisions of the candidate registration for 2026 examinations for primary and secondary school, as well as GCE. To explain to us about the new provisions is the Examination Council of Zambia Acting Public Relations Manager, Miss Angela Mwandu. So, Miss Angela, you mentioned to say, actually, this online registration, this registration is actually done online. It's going to be done online. So in cases where people have trouble to register, what happens? Especially maybe they don't have proper internet.
Okay. For candidates who may have trouble registering, we advise them to first go to the same schools where they intend to write from, schools or the examination centers. We have people who have gadgets at those schools. So if a parent or a candidate is having challenges, that is the first place where they are supposed to go to try and have those challenges addressed. In the case that the school is not able to assist, that is when the issue probably would be escalated to the District Education Board Secretary's office. But for technical issues which have to do with internet access and the gadgets, the schools are well able to handle this. And in addition to that, I would love to mention that this system that we are using now, the online candidate registration system, it was actually deployed in 2015. So this is the system that we have been using over the years. So it's only the new additions that we mentioned earlier. Otherwise, it's the system that we have been using. We've added new things over the years, but other than that, we've not really had challenges where someone is not able to register due to technical issues. Would say maybe eligibility issues, but technical, definitely the school comes in to help if the parent or the guardian do not have gadgets that can help them access the system.
Okay, in a case where someone fails to register according to the new provisions, what happens there?
If someone fails and they engage the school and they are still not able to register, they involve the DEB's office and they are not able to register, it simply means they will not be able to write the examination. So we are advising the candidates, the parents, to really work closely with the schools to ensure that we do not get to have such incidents. We want to be all-inclusive. We want all eligible candidates to register successfully within the period that we have provided as Examinations Council of Zambia.
Awesome. So how do these new provisions compared to with registration process for similar examinations in other regions? Do we have other countries that we are looking up to as Zambia to say this registration process or these new provisions are working for them?
On that one, I may not point specifically to the specific systems that other countries are using, but I would mention that as Examinations Council of Zambia, we belong to other bodies within the region. For example, in the Southern African region, we belong to the Southern Africa Association for Education Assessment, SAEA. Internationally, we belong to the International Association for Education Assessment. As we interact with these other bodies, we learn best practices from there because other examining bodies are also in those associations. So it is from there that we also benchmark. As ECZ, we benchmark with a lot of countries to learn best practices, and it is those practices that we adopt to ensure that we are efficient even as we set and conduct examinations, because the certificates that we issue out to deserving candidates are comparable to international standards. So that is what we are doing as ECZ to ensure that what we are doing is in line with international best practices.
Great. So in this new provision for the examination registration for 2026, is there a fee attached just for the listeners or the viewers out there?
In terms of examination fees, the public schools are the ones that have candidates who pay examination fees to the Examinations Council of Zambia. Then the ones in public schools do not pay examination fees. The grant-aided schools also have a special arrangement, so I'll not really delve into that. Then the fee at grade 7 level, which is the primary school living, the fee is 100 kwacha per candidate. The fee is 100 kwacha per candidate. Then for school living exam, which is the grade 12, it is 600 kwacha per candidate. Then for the GCE, General Certificate of Education, the fee is 200 kwacha per subject. So what members of the public should know is that these fees do not include the administrative fees that are charged by the schools or the examination centers. What I've mentioned is the fee that comes to the ECZ, but members of the public should know that the schools have other administrative costs which they meet, and those probably would be tabulated at the point of registration.
Okay. So as we come to the end of the program, what are your closing remarks?
My closing remarks would include just emphasizing to members of the public that in terms of payment, we have a provision that candidates or their guardians, they pay using online methods, which they can access from the schools and the centers where they are registering from. We advise them not to give cash to any individuals. We advise them not to make any direct deposits in the ECZ accounts, because payment is through mobile money. It's through the banks that are designated, that we have MOUs with, and this guidance can be obtained from the schools. Where parents and guardians are not sure of what to do, we have sent circulars, we have sent examination guidelines to the school, and that information is there, so it can easily be accessed from there. We encourage parents, guardians to make the payments themselves. They should not entrust their money to individuals. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for that information, Ms. Mwandu, and thank you for making an appearance on Zambia Today.
You are welcome. Thank you for having me.
Viewers, that is all we had for you on Zambia Today. Thank you for watching. My name is Faith Katai. Goodbye.